Alright, here is another video. This is going to be a little bit different than the other videos I have made. It is a side-by-side comparison of three knives and their woodworking abilities. For example, hacking into a piece of wood. Now that's just a 1x6 or a 1x4 actually. The actual dimensions are 1¼ inches by 4¼ inches. There. This notch right here was made by the SOG Fusion Fixation Bowie in 23 strikes. This notch here was made by the K-Bar 8-inch Tonto blade in 26 strikes. They're both about the same depth. The Bowie knife made a much cleaner notch than the K-Bar knife did, which I actually was quite surprised by. I've always used Tonto knives for tasks like this when I'm out camping, just because I believe the edge geometry and the weight and the length of the blade gives you more of an advantage over a Bowie. After doing this side by side at the same time, if it came down to it, I think it would I'd take the SOG for doing camp tasks or survival tasks like this. Makes a much cleaner notch, which really isn't important when you're making a firewood or you're chopping up firewood or things like that. But if I was trying to make a notch for a snare or something like that, I would definitely want something that wouldn't take very long to finish, make smooth edges, because you can see there, I mean, it's rough, but it's not as rough as that. I mean, that would take twice as long as it took to make that notch, to make it smooth, to make a serviceable trip for a snare. Just because if I wedged something in there, it would just get caught up on the way out, maybe not even trip at all. So I guess I'm eating my words on Tonto versus Bowie for chopping capabilities. I'll be carrying this Fusion Fixation. Very cool knife. Not too heavy, 10.2 ounces. I think it's a little bit lighter than this K-Bar, actually. They might feel about the same. Actually, this K-Bar might be a little bit lighter than the Fusion Fixation, but the performance of this knife definitely is worth maybe the extra ounce and the 1 inch less of the blade. I've been carrying this knife for a while. Got it about 8 months ago, and it's seen some pretty decent use. I haven't cleaned it up since I just did this side-by-side test. You can see there's some wood still left on there. This has held up very, very well outdoors. Hasn't rusted. That's because I take a wax candle and run it along the edge of the blade and the serrations before I go out. When you're cutting meat or something like that, because I will use that knife for food prep when I'm out. Less resistance, doesn't pick up water, won't corrode. That's why I use the wax. Now, only time will tell on how well this Fusion Fixation will hold up. But the performance, just in that little hacking test, pleasantly surprised. Now, this third knife in here, you may be going, why am I not talking about this? Well, this is the Glock 81 field knife. Olive drab handle. I added some black cord in there. It's the sawback version, of course. That's what I did with the Glock knife. Now, granted, that is in a knot of the wood, so I picked the worst spot on this board to hack away with. As you can see, right there is a knot, and knots are twice as hard. That's just a guesstimate, so don't flame me for that one, as this would over here. So obviously the hacking of this was much more difficult than here. I did try over here with the Glock, and that was just 4 or 5 swings, and it really wasn't doing much because it's a light blade. It doesn't have much of a belly on it or an edge like that on the Tonto. By the way, the Tonto edge here for chopping is very difficult to connect with, because I mean the worst thing you can do is miss and whack yourself in the leg. That would be very bad out in the woods. Hitting yourself in the hand is one thing, still terrible, still possibly life-threatening, but at least you don't need your hands to walk. Anyways, went off on a little tangent there. This cut in the middle here is what I did with the sawback on the Glock knife. Now, this took a whole lot less energy than both of these cuts combined. So, the hacking capabilities of this Glock, at least on hardened, dried wood, isn't comparable to these two knives, the K-bar and the fusion fixation. So, I'm using the sawback if I need to, definitely. That took a little bit longer than to just start swinging and hacking a notch out of this board, but I didn't burn as much energy. This took maybe a minute to do, and if it was a green wood, I have used this on green branches and it just flies through them. So the sawback is definitely a nice addition to this knife. Now, I mean, it's a single directional teeth, it's a little thick. You can really see, I mean, how thick, how much wood I had to remove there to make that cut. Here is a ballpoint pen. Well, actually it's a pencil for comparison, but you can see, I mean, that is a very large notch. Alright. Let's get back to the review here. As far as which is the best here, I can't answer that. I cannot speak for what people like, which people prefer. You may have better luck with the K-bar than you would with the fusion fixation. I don't know. Now, since we're carrying these knives, and when you're woodworking way out, you're carrying this in. I'm going to talk about the sheaths for a minute. K-bar, Kydex sheath, very nice. I've added some cordage there. Good sheath. Locks it in. This side strap that goes over the hilt and this back strap are completely unnecessary. I haven't removed them yet. I don't know if I will, but that is pretty irrelevant to what we're talking about here. This is the Glock knife. That's a cool camo job, isn't it? I did that myself, so I'm kind of biased about it. Black bat grip tape with some polyester thread sewn into a shoelace that's been wrapped around there. Polyester, so it will not decay when wet. Good sheath. Single-handed removal. All you do is slide the knife in, lift up on this a little bit, and it's good. Cool thing is, you don't have to take your belt off for this knife to slide on. You just hook it over. I never clip it, because I haven't had it come out before. Your belt will come in this hook and stay where this knife will stay where it is. You have to take your belt off, or at least undo it a little bit, depending on which side you carry it on, to hook up the K-bar. Or just put it on the waist strap on your backpack. Same thing with the SOG knife. SOG sheath, extra pouch, Velcro snap. Doesn't really hold the knife in place. Just the sheath by itself is Velcro. retention strap does. Fuck.